Thank you and welcome to the Image Profile Report. I'm your host, Herb Glenn. In our era, there have been a number of individuals who have been able to make an impact as far as culture and in many aspects, the way that we would be able to conduct ourselves on a daily basis. The individual that we're here with right now has made that kind of an impact to our lives. He has been able to develop methods in which individuals have been able to transcend generations of opportunity in regard to building strong, promising relationships in many different countries, particularly this one. He comes from our local environment, and he's one of the individuals who still has a passion for continuing to see the positive things grow. But in the most important element of what he has been able to contribute to our lifestyles, it has been in the area of music, where music has been ultimately the most important way in which we have been able to communicate with one another. And the communication that this gentleman has made has been something that has given many artists an opportunity to be successful. And that's none other than Robert Kool Bell. Mr. Bell, thank you very much for this really generous opportunity to have a chance to speak with you.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
You know, I'm impressed by your ability to be open and approachable. With so much fame and fortune, what you have contributed to our lifestyles really puts you in the level of legend because you are a trendsetter. But a person like you seems to be interested in how you're going to retire. When you started out back in the 1960s, did you think that you were going to work in a position that you would never have to retire from?
Well, back then you have to realize I was a very young guy, you know. I started when I was 14 years old. We used to do proms, and we worked over in the Pt1 in New York, also in the village. And so we just young having fun and for the love for the music. My first love was jazz. Our first name was the Jazziacs. And then we changed to the Soul Town Band, and then Kool and the Flames in 1968, and Kool and the Gang in 1969. Now Soul Town was an organization that was trying to be like Motown. They called themselves the Soul Town Review. And we were the Soul Town Band. So they had artists who were singing the hits of the Motown artists. So we had to learn all these songs and back all these people up, you know, whenever they had a Soul Town Review. So things started, you know, to evolve from that, from jazz into Soul Town, into Kool and the Flames. Now that name came up right after Soul Town organization broke out, and we were working in the club, and they came up with this idea with this name called Kool and the Flames. Kool was always my name, but it was a concept of having the flame and under the gang. So,
not understanding that too, the name Kool itself, as unique as it is, was really kind of like a transition. I mean, because in most instances, and what I have learned, is that you had to really make a choice between either being in the streets or generating some good music.
Yeah.
And generating good music became what was more of your
it kept me
passion.
from being in the streets.
Yeah.
But also was part of the whole, I guess you call it the destined life of myself becoming Kool or Kool in the Gang.
Okay.
After Kool and the Flames.
Okay.
So it all kind of like fell into place. So when we came up with our very first, I mentioned one thing. We had to change Flame to Gang because you had James Brown.
Now, was there a conflict with that?
Well, I mean, he was James Brown of the famous Flames.
Well, when you listen to James, he says that he was the funk. And
Yeah.
the funk is really a brand that Kool and the Gang really developed.
Yeah, it wasn't really a conflict then because we were inspired by James Brown at the time. Because again, we listened to Motown, we listened to on jazz side, Freddie Hubbard, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Reggie Workman from the Jazz Crusaders, and of course, James Brown. Okay, so that's why we decided to change the name to Kool again. Now later on, James did say, he said, there's only two funky bands in the world. That's me and then Kool again.
Is that right?
He said he did make a comment
Yeah.
before he passed.
Thinking about the idea of what really brought about the transition, you originally was a jazz band influenced by people like Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk, who frequented your house because of your parents. Share with us what type of an influence you received from these jazz artists.
Well, all-time greats, Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis, Freddie Hubbard, all those guys. We just listened to their music and we tried to emulate them, to be like them, as young guys. Now I'm talking 14 years old, 15 years old. And Miles wanted to be a boxer. And my father was a top 10 featherweight. And Miles used to come down to the gym and wanted to get into the ring with my father. My father would always tell him, Miles, you don't want to get up here and you mess around, you hit your lip and bust your lip, there's your whole career. So you had Miles there, and then my father lived in the same building with Thelonious Monk. So when I was born, Thelonious became my godfather.
Mm-hmm. The relationship really built a strong bond because your music has its particular style of its own. The bass line, which you have pretty much classified as being your way of being able to adjust to the way that you express your feelings as an artist, is very unique. Was that concept part of the original brand?
I would say so. And also, again, I grew up listening to guys like Ron Carter, Reggie Workman with the Jazz Crusaders, Jameson, who played all the bass lines for all the Motown hits. So I would listen to those records and kind of fit myself into developing a style, which later became the Kool Again style.
Yeah.
And basically, our music is based on the drums and the bass player working together. Because when you have the drummer and the bass player grouping, and then you start to build a house. You have the keyboards and the guitars and the horns and the vocals. But that foundation, it's like a home that's not strong, will fall down. Mm-hmm. So the bass player and the drummer have to be tight. And that's it. And I'm not the type of bass player that plays a whole lot of slapping and a lot of stuff. I just play basic, strong bass lines with the drummer. That was my focus. And that's been the Kool Again music.